Okay, I want to start this video off with a big fat disclaimer, which is do this at your own risk. This is not detectable by the game. However, if you go around showing your UID, you might have issues while you like if you show your UID while you're doing this, you might have issues. And it's completely GPU side basically. We're not modifying the game files in any way, but again, maybe one day they'll become more strict with it and they'll start caring. But right now, I've not heard of anybody getting banned. I've done this for a long time. I've had friends who've done this for a long time, and none of them have ever gotten banned for using mods or anything like that. But again, this is do this at your own risk. Don't show your UID and you should be okay. But again, I cannot guarantee anything. Okay, so I also want to mention that I am making a Discord for you to share these assets. So instead of having them just kind of scatter across the internet and making it hard for people to look for them, it'd be nice if there was one central place where all of it could go and people could easily find it and access it. So I am making a Discord server for it. I don't really like Discord, quite frankly, at all, but I don't plan on managing this very long. So if I don't find somebody else to manage it, it's probably just going to be deleted or whatever. But I just for the time being, I'll have it here as a place where you can ask for help or rip some assets. I don't really want this to be a place to talk or anything. I just don't, I don't know. Maybe eventually somebody else will take it over and you can add that. I just want this to be a place for a hub of, you know, being able to put all these different wallpapers and everything in one place. Because I'm one guy. I don't have time to be doing this all the time. I you know, I do my best to keep up, and I for the most part I've been able to. But a lot of times I'll just be like last minute, a day before the event ends, I'll be, you know, recording the wallpaper and trying to get it done. I have a backlog of stuff I've recorded that I just did not have time to fucking actually finish. You know, I recorded last minute before. So I think it'd be cool if we have a server for everybody to come in and do stuff like that. Another thing, if this video gets more than like maybe a couple thousand views, I don't think it will. I'm not going to optimize for the algorithm or anything. I will be privating it or unlisting it at the very minimum because I don't want this to blow up and then have a fucking massive wave of people ripping Hoyover's assets, because I don't think they're going to care right now. But if all of a sudden they got fucking tens of thousands of people and their assets are out there, out the wazoo, they might start caring, and that's where we might start having issues. So this video, again, big disclaimer, it might not be around, but there's a lot of uncertainty. I know that I'm not being very clear, but there will be a Discord server link down in the description. Come join. It'd be a huge help if we had a bunch of people doing this. I'm not the only one doing it. Anyways, there's the disclaimers out of the way. Let's finally get on with the video. All right, so first up, you're going to want to head over to the XXMI launcher GitHub page and install the latest release here. Now, once everything is installed and set up with XXMI launcher, go ahead and launch the game. This next step is for people who do not have a numpad on their keyboard. If you have a numpad on your keyboard, you can skip this step and go to the next chapter. So since we need a numpad for various different controls, I'm going to show you real quick how to change the bindings. First step is you're going to want to go back to the XXMI launcher and you're going to click these three little dots here and go to Open Mods folder. In the Mods folder, you're going to go back one folder to the XXMI folder as shown here. You're going to scroll down to d3dx.ini. Now, open the d3dx.ini file. This file will contain your various different key bindings for different actions in the game. You'll need to go through and fine-tune this to suit your keyboard or whatever key bindings work best for you. As an example, I want to change this button that toggles hunting. If I want to do that, I'll come down here and I can see that toggle hunting is set to numpad 0. I will delete just the numpad 0 portion. I will leave everything else alone, but this vk_numpad 0, I will delete. Then let's say I decide I want it to be my P key. I will simply type P and I will hit save. Now, going back to the game, if I hit F10, it will reload those changes that I just made. And now when I hit P, it will toggle hunting. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back to the main part of the guide. Now that we are in the game, there are two main methods I use to remove the event UI from the game so I can actually rip the wallpaper. But before we do that, we should do a frame dump. In order to do that, we're going to hit numpad 0 on our keyboard, and you'll see shader hunting mode marking skip, all this green text on the top and the bottom pop up. Once this text appears, hit F8 and the game will freeze for a second while it dumps the assets and various different artwork on the screen. Now, after the frame dump is completed, head back over to the XXMI launcher, and next to the start button, you'll see these three little dots. Then you'll go up to the Open Mods folder button, and from the Mods folder, you're gonna go back to XXMI. In the XXMI folder, you're gonna see the frame dump you just did. It'll be named frame analysis and a bunch of other numbers. I wanna preface this. Under no circumstances should you ever share the entire frame analysis with anybody. because it most definitely contains your UID. However, in this frame dump, you'll actually find all the assets and all the different pieces of this animation and of this wallpaper. So for the sake of preservation, I highly encourage you to actually go through and do a frame dump each time you get one of these wallpapers, because it is just good practice and it's not that hard to just hit F8, save the folder, and have it stored somewhere. And if you go into the deduped folder, you'll find a static image of the wallpaper, unanimated, without the black bars or anything, which is just good to have as well. So that way, anybody, if they don't, for some reason, cannot do an animated wallpaper, they don't have wallpaper engine, whatever the reason is, if they can't actually do the animated wallpaper, they'll have this static version saved somewhere, as well as the animated version that we'll be doing in a second. So this step is completely optional. However, I highly encourage you to do it, and it does not take that long, and you can easily get the static versions as well as the animated versions. Now, with that out of the way and us having a static image now, let's get back to it, and I'll show you how to actually get the animated portion of this wallpaper. There are two main methods that I use in order to get rid of the event UI so I can rip the actual animated wallpaper. I'll be showing you method 1 right now. And method 1 I typically use for Zenless Zone 0 or maybe Genshin, because it implies you have this empty space here where the green text will go and that it'll be cut out anyway. With that out of the way, let's start. The first step, as we previously did for the frame dump, is to enter hunting mode by pressing numpad 0. Now that we are in hunting mode, we're going to hit numpad 8 until the event UI disappears. Just like that, now we have isolated just the animated wallpaper in here without all the extra stuff on top of it. All right, so now this is going to be method 2 of removing the UI so you can get the wallpaper. If you were already able to get what you needed from the first method, then you can just go ahead and skip this chapter and go to the next one. But if you weren't, and let's say you have this issue where it's a full wallpaper, you know, it covers the entire screen, and you have black bars where you can cut it out. And so when I put this green text on the screen, well, that's no good, because now what am I going to do? I have this green text on the screen, and I want to record it. What you're going to do for this method is you're going to head back over to the XXMI launcher. You're going to click these 3 little dots next to the start button, and you're going to press open mods folder. In the mods folder of whatever game you're trying to work on, you're going to press new text document, and you're going to rename it, including the file extension, to whatever, you know, .ini, and that will create a .ini file for you to work with. I've already gone ahead and created this .ini file. In the .ini file, what you're going to write is texture override, and then whatever name, it doesn't really matter. This is irrelevant here. Just I wrote main UI for this. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through here, and you're going to keep going until you find whatever you want element you're trying to remove. So for this one, I found it, and the index buffer is 63C34CE. So I'm going to write that right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save it, and then I'm going to go back to my game, and I'm going to hit F10. Now you'll notice that element is gone. And the thing is with this, I've already hidden my UID right down here. You can do this with multiple different elements. So for example, if I go up here, I want this gone too. I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to try and find it. And boom, just like that. See, now it's gone. So I know the index buffer is going to be A3852114D. So I'm going to copy this exact same thing. I'm going to change this right here, this index buffer, A3852114D. And this is very important. You have to make sure you change the name or this won't work. So I'm just going to change it to like extra UI. Doesn't really need to be a specific name, but whatever. So I put the right, you know, index buffer in there. I'm gonna hit save, press that. I'm gonna press F10 again. And just like that, bam, I have everything hidden, and I can now freely go through this and just record it for the next step of the video. Keep in mind, while this method does work to hide your UID, you don't really need to if you go online and find a UID hider mod, as it'll just be more convenient for you, and you'll never forget to hide the UID. Now that you remove the event UI with the method of your choice, it's time to actually record it. Head over to the recording software of your choice. I personally use OBS, and set it up to record the entire wallpaper and the entire window. Make sure your resolution and your frame rate settings are all set and good to go, and then we're going to start recording. The length of the recording typically depends on how complex the animation is. For this one, for example, it's not super complex. There's not like a ton of different moving elements going on. So I think maybe 2 to 3 minutes of raw footage should be plenty of footage, probably overkill if anything, to actually get it done. So I'll do about 2 to 3 minutes. But for example, if it's more of a complicated one, like Where the Clouds Embrace the Dawn, where it's this huge, lots of different moving elements, and there's like, you might not know, I would do about 5, maybe even up to 10 minutes if it gets really complicated, just depending on how many moving parts there are. So really just kind of gauge it as best as you can, and so think about how much raw footage you think you're going to need because of how many different moving elements there are and everything like that. So like I said, this one doesn't seem too bad, so I'm just going to record for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then I'll get right back to you in a second. Okay, so you've actually recorded your wallpaper now, and you have some raw footage to work with. Next up, we need to actually kind of format it so we have a kind of a looping animation that we can actually use as a wallpaper. So the first thing we're obviously going to do is we're going to bring our raw footage into the editing software of your choice. I will be using Premiere Pro. And then obviously, if you've used method 1, you have all this green text up here. So I'm just going to crop it. Boom. Top and the bottom have been cropped. So now I just have the wallpaper. I already cropped the bottom just because I didn't want to show my UID here, but just like that, crop the top and the bottom, and boom. Once you do that, we need to grab the very first frame. So go to the very beginning of this video, raw footage, whatever it is, and you need to grab the first frame and have to overlay it on top of it. So the way I do this in Premiere Pro is I go over here to export frame, and I just export it as a PNG. And then I grab that first frame and I overlay it on top. There's other ways to do this, but again, it depends on whatever video software you're using. So just like that, I have it dragged on top, and I'm gonna just extend it for basically the whole length of the animation. And then if I look through now, it's frozen, right? It's a frozen animation. What I'm gonna do on this top freeze frame that I've got of the first layer, I'm gonna do 50%, and you'll notice nothing happens. But as I move forward through the animation, you'll see I have this kind of ghosting effect. And I kind of just want to go through here and keep looking until I find that perfectly matches up. And as you go through, I'll look through. Okay, so this is close, but the lighting does not quite match up. Now, for more complicated animations, you should probably mark these down, the ones that are super close but not quite there, because sometimes you won't actually be able to find that perfect frame because they might have some kind of randomness going on. I don't know exactly how their systems work. You know, maybe somebody smarter than me knows, but all I know is it doesn't always give you that first frame. So just I'll show you a method to deal with that in a second, but for the time being, just as you do this, it's a good practice to write down things that are close. So I see it here at 2 seconds. I'll be like, okay, the 2 second mark is I'll write that down, 2 seconds. Good. It's like, okay, decent. And I'll keep going. I'll scrub through until I find that perfect animation. I've already done this, so I already know it's right here is that perfect frame. So if I go like this and I toggle it on and off, there is basically zero difference, just like that. So I know there's zero difference there. I'm at that first frame. So I know that I've come here and I started this first frame and I have returned to that first frame at this point. So all I have to do now is cut the video here. And if I delete this freeze frame, right, and I loop it, you'll see when it loops, if you go wait for a second, there's unnoticeable. It is a perfect loop. And now all you can do is just export this as a MP4 or whatever and put in Wallpaper Engine, and now you have a looped animation. But what do I do if I do not have that perfect frame? It doesn't look quite right, something's slightly off, and it's very jarring. I will show you a trick to do that right now. Okay, so this is another wallpaper I did, which is the Where the Clouds Embrace the Dawn one. So this is basically where it comes into practice, where I marked down a bunch of ones that were pretty close, and I couldn't find one where the frame lines up perfectly. The frame is like, if I look at this right here, right, I'm looking at it, and it's just not quite, like you can see it's good, but if I zoom in too, you'll see it even and more clearly that it's just a slight nudge, and it's just not quite there, but it's super close. So I went through and I found it. I said, this is the closest I can get it. I can't really find anything else closer than this because maybe there's some more randomness to it. I don't know exactly how the animations work, but this was the closest point I could find. But again, it looks a little off. And if you, I mean, obviously, maybe you're not looking this close all the time, but it's going to annoy you because you know it's there. You know it's there and it's going to annoy you. So what I want to do here is I want to fix this by doing a little bit of movie magic. The first thing you're going to want to do is obviously cut it down to this moment. Basically, you're going to treat it almost as if it were normal. What you're going to do is just like this. So I can say, okay, this is the best spot. I'm going to cut it down here, just like we would have done in the previous animation. We're going to delete this top first frame. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut arbitrarily, doesn't really matter where, somewhere like a little snippet out of the beginning of the animation. So let's just say around here, why not? And then we're going to drag this beginning portion up here, right? And then we're going to put this back. So now we're back to the beginning. And we'll see. So now we have it as it was before, where we have basically transitioned between those two frames where it's like slightly jarring. And this says it is this simple. I am literally just going to do a fade effect, which is basically a cross dissolve in Premiere Pro. Boom, just like that. There's now a cross dissolve going. And now if you look at this, it's virtually you can't see it at all. Like there's unless you are, I think, a superhuman, I do not believe that out of this entire 1:19 animation that you're gonna say, okay, at 1 or 108.04, there is a tiny fade effect. It is unnoticeable, and this helps smooth out a lot of those where it's so close. It's so close, but it's not quite there. And then we don't have to worry about the end. The end we already took care of because, like I said, we took this from back here. We snipped that there. So that was already a natural transition that was already there. So when I loop it, you're going to see it's just going to continue where it left off. All I did was move the clips around a little bit, and now I've smoothed it out. And just like that, again, now we're set. Now I can export this as an MP4, put it in Wallpaper Engine, and I have myself a wallpaper.